Julieta realizes she is inside a novel, but she is not the beautiful heroine who ends up with the male lead. Instead, she is the villainous extra, Julieta Orbecian, who was once scolded by the male lead for saying the wrong thing to a girl he cared about. To survive, she decides to lay low and holes herself up in the Orbecian mansion, living a life of legal unemployment to avoid the main characters. On the day of the Emperor and Empress's wedding, Julieta realizes the original story has finally reached its end. Thrilled that she can finally go outside freely, she happily suggests traveling to her nanny. Her nanny is surprised by her sudden energy, noting she has been oversleeping lately. Wislet Orbecian, the second son of the house, interrupts Julieta for talking about travel when she should be accepting marriage proposals. He tells her their father wants her to stop rejecting every candidate. Julieta argues that none of them suited her. Wislet asks exactly what part she didn't like and demands to know what kind of partner she actually wants. Julieta lists her specific criteria: someone who doesn't spout nonsense about eternal love on the first meeting, someone who will fulfill the role of husband properly, and someone who won't meddle in her life. Wislet is stunned by her coldness, but agrees to tell her father her terms. Before leaving, he tells Julieta he still hopes she will marry someone she truly loves. Julieta sits alone, considering spreading a rumor that she will choose her own husband. Suddenly, Yezar Perheim, the sub-male lead of the original novel, arrives at the mansion. He tells Julieta he has heard the rumor. He recites her requirements back to her. A man who won't talk about fate or destiny, won't meddle, but will play the ideal husband. Yezar asks if he would do as a partner. Julieta is shocked and asks if he wants to marry her. Yezar clarifies that he is proposing a contract marriage. Julieta asks if that means he doesn't intend for it to last forever. Yezar confirms this, admitting his hands are shaking because he doesn't have the confidence to love anyone yet. Julieta realizes he is still heartbroken over the original heroine and thinks of him as a failed stock she once invested in. However, Yezar promises he can be the ideal husband she wants. Julieta thinks that since he is a soft-hearted duke who is also being pressured by his family, he won't drag her into trouble. Julieta agrees to the contract marriage. She proposes a term of 2 years with the condition that the fault for the divorce will lie with Yezar. She also demands a fair split of assets. Yezar agrees to all terms immediately. They shake hands, telling each other it will be fine. The two sign a marriage contract detailing the 2-year duration and the division of assets, officially beginning their marriage.
Julieta asks her nanny if she should start eating less to fit into her wedding dress. The nanny brushes Julieta's hair and insists that she is already slim and can afford to eat more. Julieta notes she heard other young ladies are starved for their weddings. The nanny replies that Julieta's nanny is too kind for her own good. Julieta looks in the mirror and reflects that she didn't expect everything to happen this fast. Julieta recalls breaking the news to her father. He is shocked and admits he heard she was seeing the Duke of Perheim, but hadn't realized it was this serious. He apologizes for previously introducing her to useless suitors. Julieta realizes the Duke must have told her father and handled the preparations, leaving her with nothing to do. Wislet bursts into the room, followed by Valentino. Wislet demands to know if she is really marrying Duke Perheim just like that. Julieta confirms it. Valentino complains that he rushed over from the palace the moment he heard the news from their father. He asks for an explanation, noting he hadn't heard of any good suitors, and asks since when she and the Duke have been lovers. Julieta apologizes and claims they decided to keep it a secret until the marriage was confirmed. Valentino accepts the explanation, but says it makes him sad she didn't tell him first. Wislet asks to speak with Julieta privately. In the hallway, he demands she be honest and asks if she is really in love with Duke Perheim. Julieta anticipates the question. Wislet points out that everyone knows the Duke already has someone he loves. He starts to say it is a political marriage where love doesn't matter, but stops himself.
He admits he only wants her to be happy and to live in a marriage where she is truly loved. Julieta realizes Wislet is worried, not scolding her. She tells him that love is not her top priority. Wislet asks what happens if she regrets it later or ends up falling for the Duke. Julieta tells him he is being sentimental. She smiles and promises she will definitely be happy. Wislet sighs and pats her head firmly. He tells her she must keep the promise to be happy. Julieta complains that he messed up the hair the nanny worked hard on. She thinks to herself that she will be happier this way, even without love. The wedding ceremony begins. Julieta walks down the aisle to applause. She reaches the altar and takes Yezar's hand. She internally questions why he has to be so handsome, noting his face is lethal. She sees her brother and father crying in the audience and notes the irony since they urged her to get married. Yezar asks if everything is all right. Julieta says she is fine. Yezar tells her to lean on each other and asks her to just call him Yezar. Julieta agrees, feeling overwhelmed by his proximity. Yezar apologizes to her. When Julieta asks why, he says he is sorry for accepting such an improper proposal when she might have wanted a marriage built on love. He worries he might be blocking her future. Julieta thinks he is a man too kind to the point of being frustrating. She reflects that if she really loved him, his words might sting. She speaks up and asks him not to say that, stating she agreed because she wanted this too. She internally confirms she feels no romantic attraction toward him. She addresses him as Yezar. The officiant instructs the groom and bride to seal their vows with a kiss. Yezar and Julieta kiss. Julieta thinks she will be counting on him. Maids attend to Julieta, brushing her hair and adjusting her appearance. One maid remarks on her beauty and assures her the Duke will be delighted. Julieta reflects that they put significant care into dressing her and tells herself to stay focused as the time has come. In the bedroom, Julieta anticipates the night. She imagines Yezar praising her and initiating intimacy on the bed. She abruptly stops the thought, reminding herself that such an event will never happen because they are not a real couple. The atmosphere shifts. Yezar questions Julieta, asking if he should interpret her current actions as a threat. Julieta stands before him, gripping a sword she pulled from the wall. She denies threatening him and wonders how the situation escalated. She explains that when she entered the room, she saw a dark bug-like object crawling near Yezar's feet while he drank water. Reacting on instinct, she grabbed the nearby sword to kill it. Julieta drops the sword and insists it is a misunderstanding. She argues that she is physically weak and lacks the muscle to threaten him. Yezar remains silent for a moment before asking why she pulled the sword. Julieta points to the spot where she saw the creature. Yezar reaches down and picks up a small object. He asks if she means the ball of thread in his hand. Julieta is confused and insists she saw a bug. Yezar crushes the thread ball and laughs. He tells her he understands why she was startled, but assures her it is not a bug. He notes that the decorative sword is heavy and worries she could have hurt herself, telling her to be careful next time. Julieta apologizes for the misunderstanding, and Yezar accepts it. Julieta asks him to call her by her name. Yezar agrees, but suddenly turns his face away. Julieta asks why. Yezar explains that once he relaxed, he realized her clothes are very thin and he cannot keep looking. Julieta realizes her dress is sheer. She recalls that Yezar is supposed to be immune to women other than the heroine of the novel. She tells him she will find something to cover herself. Yezar watches her walk away and warns her she won't find a robe in that direction. Julieta trips. She falls backward. Yezar rushes forward and catches her. They crash onto the floor, with Julieta landing on top of him. Julieta blinks, realizing she feels no pain despite the loud impact. She sees she is lying on Yezar. He asks if she is all right. Julieta notices Yezar's robe has slipped open, exposing his bare chest. Her heart begins to race as she stares at him. Yezar calls her name and points out that she is bleeding. A drop of blood falls from her face onto his chest. Yezar asks if she fell badly or is in pain. Julieta, flustered, asks him to please put his clothes back on properly.
Yezar asks Julieta if her nosebleed has stopped. Julieta confirms it has. Internally, she thinks that a man this handsome looks dangerous whether he is clothed or not. She tells him she is fine now. She wipes her face with the cloth while Yezar holds his robe closed. She apologizes to him, promising to be more careful from now on. Yezar replies that it is his fault. Julieta mentally screams that she is dying of embarrassment. Silence fills the room. Julieta asks if she may open the window. Yezar agrees immediately. Julieta walks toward the window, thinking he must have noticed she avoided him out of awkwardness. She opens the window and looks out at the roses. She comments that the night breeze feels nice. Yezar approaches her quietly. Julieta adds that the sky is clear and the air is perfectly cool. She rests her hand on the windowsill. Yezar places his hand on the sill next to hers, and their hands brush. Julieta flinches. Yezar asks if she overreacted just because their hands touched. He mentions the wedding and says he wanted to thank her. Julieta asks what he means. Yezar explains that she held his hand when he was trembling. Julieta says that was nothing. She clenches her fist and asserts that even if it is a contract, he is still her husband, so of course she would do that. Yezar bursts into laughter. He smiles and admits he sees her point, wondering if he laid it on too thick. Yezar asks why she does not ask him why he was trembling. Julieta looks out the window and says she figured he must have his reasons. She states she does not like prying into things people do not want to say. Yezar pauses, then calls her kind. Julieta internally reflects that she is not kind. She simply knows most of his circumstances from the original story. She knows why he asked for a 2-year contract marriage and why he trembled during the vows when they kissed. She thinks that if she acts like she knows it all, he will hate it, but admits she would be scared too in his place. Yezar tells Julieta he looks forward to the next 2 years with her. Julieta says she does too. She asks if, since it is their wedding night, they cannot leave the room until morning. Yezar nods and says it is most likely. Julieta wonders what they are supposed to do all night, noting that sharing a bed already feels awkward. Julieta notices a bottle on the table and asks what it is. Yezar explains the maids prepared it, as they say nothing eases tension like wine. Julieta suggests they drink and talk a bit. Yezar questions the idea of talking. Julieta argues that even if it is a contract, they will be living together for 2 years and must act like a happy couple in public, so it would be strange if they knew nothing about one another. Yezar warns her that the wine is quite strong. Julieta insists she can handle her drink. She takes a sip. Yezar observes her and remarks that she does not look like she can handle it at all. However, he agrees it may be good to follow her suggestion. He pours wine into a glass. They sit together. Julieta mentions hearing that he is very strict with his nights. Yezar drinks and replies that he must separate business from private life. Julieta asks if he would treat her kindly if she were one of his knights. Yezar says he probably would not. He would make her run 100 laps around the training grounds and drill mistakes into her with harsh one-on-one sparring. Julieta laughs. She says she thought he was all soft and gentle, but he is not what she expected. Yezar admits that as for him, he does not have a single friend. He says being able to talk so comfortably is a joy. He hesitates, then dismisses his words, claiming he might be tipsy and saying nonsense. Julieta asks if something happened to him. Yezar is startled and replies that he cannot tell her that. Julieta changes the subject, suggesting that since they are here, they should be friends. Yezar looks at her with wide eyes. He repeats that he might be a little tipsy and suggests she is drunk and should sleep. Julieta smiles and admits she is lonely. She explains she does not have anyone she can just talk to like this. Julieta reflects on her relationship with Nanny and Wislet. She acknowledges their kindness, but believes they only pour out that affection because they view her as the original Julieta. She knows the real Julieta is no longer in this world and assumes the original story must have resolved her fate, which explains why the servants appeared. However, in this reality, Julieta is merely the one who possessed the body after the accident. She worries that if they ever discovered she isn't the real Julieta, their affection would not remain the same.
She grips the fabric of her dress. She tells herself she doesn't need something like love. What she needed was simply someone to share her heart with. Julieta notices the look Yezar gives her. She thinks it looks full of sorrow and wonders if he sees himself reflected in her. She considers his history. His precious friend and first love became the Empress, someone he no longer dared to hold in his heart. His feelings became something that could never surface again. Yezar agrees to her previous suggestion. He tells her he will be her friend. Julieta lights up immediately. She asks if he really means it and says that makes her so happy. She smiles broadly, thinking excitedly that she has made a friend. Yezar asks if she is all right. Julieta assures him she is perfectly fine and tells him not to worry. Internally, she realizes she is the only one who got a little tipsy and notes that Yezar holds his liquor much better than she thought. Julieta calls out Yezar's name. He responds. She warns him that she doesn't black out when she is drunk, so he better not dare take back his promise of friendship. Yezar smiles gently. He tells her he takes responsibility for everything he says. He asks if she really saw him as someone without honor. Julieta denies it immediately, stating she trusts him and asks where else there could be someone as honorable as him. Internally, Julieta bases this trust on her knowledge of the novel, where Yezar was the model of a genuine, gentle, and kind sub-male lead. Yezar looks shocked. He asks what it is about him that makes her trust him so much, pointing out they haven't known each other long. He warns her that trusting someone so easily can be dangerous. Julieta stammers, unable to admit she read about him in a book. She lies and says she heard rumors that he has quite a good reputation. Yezar touches the stem of his wine glass. He quietly says he didn't know that. He covers his lower face with his hand, looking flushed. Julieta thinks it makes sense he wouldn't know, reasoning that he only ever cared about swords and the heroine, ignoring everything else. Yezar looks at her and calls her cute. He then confesses that there was someone he loved for a very long time. Julieta is startled by his admission. He continues, stating that the person is now another man's wife. Julieta asks if that is why he said he can't bring himself to love anyone. Yezar confirms this. Julieta notes that his voice sounds pained. She thinks this is natural as he spent so long loving only the heroine, just like every sub-male lead who devotes themselves blindly. Yezar observes her expression. He remarks that she looks sorrowful and asks if it has been hard for her. He dismisses his own pain, claiming he is fine and thinks it is for the best. He touches his glass again and says that because they married, everyone can be happy. Julieta recalls the history between the characters. The heroine, Berticia, the male lead, Camilio, and Yezar were friends since childhood. Yezar was closest to Berticia from the start, but when she met the crown prince, Camilio, she fell helplessly in love. Yezar watched painfully, knowing instinctively there was no place for him by her side. Back in the present, Julieta stares at Yezar. She repeats his words back to him in disbelief, questioning the idea that everyone is happy. Dark lines overshadow her expression. She thinks asking if everyone is happy is pushover nonsense and ridiculous. She slams her hand on the table and grabs Yezar. She demands to know what he means by "it's fine" and yells at him for bottling it all up alone. She grabs his face with both hands, leaving Yezar looking stunned and confused. Comment for part 2. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.